Well, good morning. You join me at the beautiful Rocklands Mere Fishery in Norfolk this morning. And this morning I'm trying to catch some crucian carp and I'm trying to catch some tench on the float. But the style of float fishing I like to use when I'm targeting these is the lift method. So before I get started, I'm going to talk you through the setup for the lift method and how to use it. Well, the first thing I'm going to mention, because I'm fishing for crucian carp and tench, I'm going to quickly talk about the rod and the reel that I'm using. The rod I'm using is the new John Wilson Travel float rod. Now this rod can be fished at either 13 foot or 11 foot because it comes with an extension. And because I'm fishing really close in by these lily pads, I've got it at 11 foot. Now you don't have to use a centre pin reel, you can use a fixed spool, but because I'm fishing so close and I really enjoy playing fish on them, I've brought my centre pin this morning. And the centre pin is loaded up with a 5-pound line. One of the most important parts of the lift setup is the float itself. You need a really sensitive float. And the float I've got on here this morning is one of the Drennan glow tip antenna floats. In fact, this is the smallest size in the range at 0.6 of a gram. And the float is held on the line with some rubber float stops. And I choose to put 2 float stops either side of the float so it definitely doesn't slip on the line. And then the float is in a little float adapter, meaning if I need to, I can change the float really quickly. Now this is the other important part of the setup. So on the business end, down here by the hook, I've actually got a size 16 hook to nylon, which I've joined to the main line with a tiny little micro swivel. So I can loop to loop that hook to nylon onto that little swivel. And then this is the other key factor. I've got 2 BB shot, probably about 4 inches from the hook. And if I'm not set deep enough, those split shot will pull the float completely under. So you use those split shot as if they were a plummet and you keep adjusting the depth until those 2 shot are just laying on the bottom and the tip of the float is just showing on the surface. And the bites that you get, being the lift method, if they pick the bait off the bottom and lift those shot off the bottom, the float will lift up and quite often lay on its side, and that's a really nice bite to get. And the other type of bite is the same with any float fishing. When they move off and drag the weights along the bottom, the float will slide under. Well, there we go, a prehistoric looking tench caught on the lift method, and one of those lovely lift bites where the float just stands up and lays flat. So if you've got a venue close to you where you can float fish for the tench in the margins, it's well worth trying the lift, and they give a fantastic scrap on the float rod.